Who are 3 players I would love the Buffalo Sabres to trade for this offseason? Find out coming up. What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another video of Sports Talk Buffalo. The Buffalo Sabres once again finished as the youngest team in the NHL by a pretty decent margin, and also once again missed the NHL playoffs for a record 13th season. With the Buffalo Sabres having such a strong pipeline of prospects and the youngest team in the NHL, I believe now is the time to start cashing in on the young talent and sell some of them to bring in a quality or a few quality NHL rostered players to help rebuild the bottom 6 or make a big splash and change the team dynamic altogether. That is why I came up with these 3 players that I would love the Sabres to trade for. The first player is obviously a pipe dream. So before you come at me saying, "Oh, this will never happen," just know that I know that. I know that this player would likely never happen. It is very unlikely that he gets traded at all, let alone to a divisional foe. However, I have seen his name multiple times in social media circles as a player that could potentially be on the trade block. He is being rumored, so I thought it would be a fun idea to just picture it if the Sabres would trade for a player like Brady Tkachuk. The Buffalo Sabres and any team in the NHL would be absolute fools for not at least attempting to bring in a player like Tkachuk. Brady is a prototypical power forward, and he can do it all. He has scored 30-plus goals in each of his last 3 seasons. He can also dish it, as he's had 37 or more assists in that same span over the last 3 seasons. He plays power play. He's good 5-on-5, as more than 2/3 of his goals in the last 3 seasons, I believe, have come 5-on-5. And he is incredibly physical, averaging nearly 3.5 hits per game for his entire career. Something that the Sabres desperately lacked was any sort of physicality. If you ask any sort of Buffalo Sabres fan, and it was evident in a lot of games this past season that the Buffalo Sabres were not physical enough to match up with some of the teams that were just a little bit more physical than they were. So what do you think it would take in order to get a player of the caliber of a Brady Tkachuk? I think a good way to look at it would be in the Jack Eichel realm, okay? It would probably actually have to be a little bit more than Jack Eichel, and I say that because you are doing an interdivisional trade. So it would likely be even more than the Golden Knights gave up for Jack Eichel to be able to bring a Brady Tkachuk here to Buffalo. However, it is a fairly solid comparison between the two, at least in terms of offensive numbers. Jack Eichel was able to fetch a solid NHLer, an A-plus prospect, a first and a second-round pick, with the Sabres also throwing in a third-round pick to go back towards the Vegas Golden Knights. Now, obviously, the Sabres got Alex Tuch. They got Peyton Krebs, who hasn't necessarily turned into the player that I think we all hoped he would be. However, he has still turned into a decent bottom 6 guy that can chip in every once in a while. And I wouldn't be mad if the Sabres brought him back and put him potentially as their 4th-line center. So what would it take? It would likely take the Sabres' first-round pick this year, the 11th overall pick in 2024, a second-round pick next year in 2025, maybe even their first round pick next year. Also, as I said, it might take just a little bit more in order to get him to do a divisional trade to this Buffalo Sabres team. So also next year's first round pick, of course, it would be lottery protected provided the Sabres were not able to make the playoffs again next season. And either Quinn or Peterka, which is going to be one of their solid NHLers, okay, I would probably rather the Sabres give up Quinn than Peterka. However, either one of those players would likely have to be involved in this deal. Both very young, both have a ton of potential and showed just as much at the NHL level. And also an A-plus prospect. And I was thinking that somebody like a Noah Ostlund would probably be enough to get this deal done for the Buffalo Sabres. Again, if the Sabres, if Brady Tkachuk is on the trade block at all, and the Sabres don't at least offer something like that to the Senators in order to bring him to Buffalo, they are absolute fools, as he would slot in as one of their best, if not their best player on this Buffalo Sabres team, and it could completely change the entire dynamic and attitude of this Buffalo Sabres team. We have seen that they are incredibly talented, but something that Brady Tkachuk has that I don't know if a lot of the other Sabres do have is the ability to play with his emotion. He can drag the Sabres into games that they might not be up for and help them kind of, get into some of these games. A lot of that is lost on a lot of NHL fans today. People don't really realize that players don't show up to pretty much every single game, right? They're paid to. Of course they should, but they don't. Sometimes you have to get that emotion going in order to be at peak level when you are playing an 82-game season. And I think Brady Tkachuk would be able to drag the Buffalo Sabres into some of the games that they might not be up for during the season, while providing 70-plus points for this Buffalo Sabres team and physicality and fighting. He is the total package and something that the Sabres would be a fool for if they didn't at least throw an offer out to the Ottawa Senators. Now, the next player is a lot more likely than, of course, a superstar, prototypical power forward like Brady Tkachuk, and that is Sam Bennett. Now, Sam Bennett is, of course, still in the playoffs with the Florida Panthers. He slots in, I believe, as their number 2 center, and he is a very good player for this Florida Panthers team. He's had 40-plus points, I believe, over the last 3 seasons. He has played his best hockey his last 3 seasons with this Florida Panthers team. And the Florida Panthers have a lot of pending UFAs and RFAs coming up, with guys like Reinhart and Montour likely to get large raises in this offseason. They also have a guy in Lundell who is younger than Sam Bennett, who appears like he is ready to take the next step and be their second-line center in this upcoming season. He will also likely get a new contract, costing the Florida Panthers more. And also Sam Bennett also has just 1 year left on his deal. So the Buffalo Sabres could potentially pry Sam Bennett away from this Florida Panthers team. Something Bennett would be able to do for this Sabres team is he could be the much-needed physical forward that the Sabres need, as he averages over 2 hits per game in his past 3 seasons with the Florida Panthers. He also fills a massive gap on the third line that was vacated when the Buffalo Sabres traded away Casey Middlestad. Bennett has, as I mentioned before, Bennett has had 40 or more points in each of his last 3 seasons. He would be a very quality top 9 forward with the ability to jump to that second line, provided there were any injuries to go along with the Buffalo Sabres, an interchangeable piece. Again, just a quality player that the Sabres, a quality veteran that the Buffalo Sabres could bring in this offseason, with the Florida Panthers potentially being up against the cap. And it wouldn't, if the Sabres didn't like the way he played or he didn't produce for the Buffalo Sabres, it wouldn't be a huge risk as he only has 1 year left on his contract. And the Buffalo Sabres could choose not to bring him back, or they could choose to flip him at the trade deadline if things are not looking great once again next season. So what is something that I realistically believe that the Sabres could get for a Sam Bennett? Or what would they have to trade away to get Sam Bennett? I think a first-round pick, likely the 11th in the 2024 NHL draft, along with a A-plus prospect. And I think if you throw in somebody like an Isaac Rosen, the Buffalo Sabres would be able to potentially pry Sam Bennett away from the Florida Panthers. Lastly, a player that I think could also help revamp the Buffalo Sabres' bottom six is a guy that has been talked about before, and that is Tanner Jeannot. Now, Jeannot is a physical fourth liner, as he's had over 200 hits in every single season since becoming a full-time NHLer. However, what a lot of people, unless they look him up, don't realize is he also has a 24-goal season under his belt. So he is capable of more than just being a physical presence for this Buffalo Sabres team. Obviously, I have heard on the Instigators them talk about Tanner Jeannot and how he would slot in the bottom six, help the Sabres revamp their bottom six. And they talked about potentially giving up a first-round pick simply because Tampa Bay gave up a boatload to get Jeannot in Tampa Bay. However, simply based on the last few seasons of play that Jeannot has had for the Tampa Bay Lightning, I don't believe it needs to be a first-round pick to pry Jeannot away from the cash-strapped Tampa Bay Lightning. I think that it could be done for a couple of mid-round picks, maybe a third and a fourth, or maybe even a third and a second-round pick for this Buffalo Sabres team. Also, something that would need to happen is he either needs to waive his modified no-trade clause in order to come to Buffalo, or if Buffalo isn't one of the teams on his modified no-trade clause or no-movement clause, he would definitely have to waive that in order to get him into the Buffalo Sabres sweater. Would you guys be interested in any one of these three players? Is there somebody else that you might have in mind? Let me know in the comments section below, guys. Again, I try to answer each and every single one of you guys. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you guys never miss a video. I talk Bills, Sabres, University at Buffalo men's basketball and football teams, and lately also our champion, Buffalo Bandits. I want to thank you guys all for watching, and as always, have a fantastic week.